The Canadian women's national team are back, and match one of this international window was a complete and utter disaster, losing by a 0-0 in Lucerne. It's not the fact that they lost to Switzerland, though that doesn't really help anyone's confidence. It's the fact that Casey Stoney, after the Canadians were waxed by the Americans' B team in July, made all these big proclamations. I would say it bordered on threats at some point, not of violence, but of playing time for some of the big stars who are in and around that 60, 75, 110 cap range. We're talking about the new core of veterans specific in this group, because there's a specific type of player, Gareth, that really has not shown up for Canada in the past few windows, and it was evident again against the Swiss. The good news, if you're looking for a silver lining, is that they play again tomorrow. That match is available right here on OneSoccer, another matinee, this time against the Dutch, an even more superior team, and a Dutch side that will be holding a retirement match for one of the most capped players in international football, certainly European football, Sharita Spitza. So the Dutch will come in, want to give off their veteran skipper a big, happy send-off. Good memories for the road against the Canadian side with the point to prove. Now, Casey Stoney, at the time of this recording, has not met with the media to preview the match. We don't really know what direction she's going to go with her 11, with her substitutes, but changes are certainly needed, Ollie, to avoid this window being an absolute belly flop disaster.
Yeah, but I mean, I think she's in a really difficult spot, because what are the changes? Like, I think everyone wants to see some degree of change of some kinds, but it's a bit harder to like specify exactly what it's going to be. I really think that at this stage, and I know she's still got a lot of time, Casey Stoney, until the World Cup to get this right, but I think she really needs to start identifying like who are the 5 or 6 players who I'm going to build this team around. Because I think you think back to Canada teams of the past that have won Olympic medals and competed at World Cups, and you can always kind of identify who those players are and who's going to stand up and be counted in the key moments. Obviously, none more so than Christine Sinclair, who you can't replace, and so that's a real difficulty. But in this current squad, I think almost because Stoney has given opportunities to so many different players, and we have seen quite an influx of new players, I think I'm even less clear than I was a few months ago about who the like fundamental core players are. And I just don't know if she knows right now who she's building around, or maybe if the ones she wants to build around are even in camp, because Gilles isn't there, Buchanan's not there. I think Simi Awujo should be a big part of this team going forward. She's been very in and out since Casey Stoney took over and isn't there again for this camp. And now Olivia Smith is injured as well. So it's easy to say, like, we need to see a different lineup. We need to see changes. I think it is much less easy to say right now who's coming in and who are the players that you really think can be difference makers for this team and produce a different kind of performance. It's slim pickings in the minute.
Well, especially when your best player over the last few years, Vanessa Gilles, isn't playing. So much of Canada's production has come from the center back scoring goals for this team on set pieces. I actually think that some struggles right now, some difficult moments, could actually be the best possible outcome for this team. And you say it's going to be a disaster, a belly flop. These are friendlies, Adam. These are these games are about experimentation, trying to find solutions, trying to maybe do things in a little bit of a different way. And quite frankly, for far too long, Canada, and to their credit, found success riding with the same formula. Christine Sinclair is a generational player. There's no other Christine Sinclair who's coming through that door. And there was a collection of some very good, hardworking players that fit. They had the right mentality. And they took this team, for me, to a level that was beyond what their talent would have dictated. Now world football, especially in the women's game, is getting better and better. The quality's getting better. European nations are certainly improving based upon significant international competitions where countries like Switzerland play better teams on a regular basis. So guess what? Canada is going to have to be better. And quite frankly, a lot of these players who were probably leftovers from the previous regime or the previous group that had a level of success, some of them are working their way out of the team. And the Canadian women's national team has always been political. It's been political in terms of the players and the great level of power that they have in that squad. And any new manager that comes in, you can't shake the boat right away, especially when the team's able to maintain a certain level of pace. Now that they're kind of falling off, just in terms of their quality, in terms of results, that gives Casey Stoney free reign to go in and make the necessary changes. I understand that some players weren't called into this window, but in the next window, that should be the expectations. She's going to give this group of some older players every chance to retain their spot in the group. But if they end up falling on their face, then that just gives her every reason to say, Casey Stoney, that is, yeah, but I gave you every possible chance, and I think that she's been doing this in a diplomatic way. Her speech, things that she's saying are getting harder and harder. And look, it's going to then be it's going to be incumbent on young players showing their worth. And our young Canadian players that are stepping up, are they good enough? Right now, I think that convention would suggest it's not good enough. There needs to be more better young players playing in top women's leagues around the world. And NSL surely plays a role in that, but young players need to be playing at the highest level possible in the best soccer infrastructure possible to give this group a chance of getting where it needs to be going forward. So I kind of think that this is the darkness before dawn. And you're hoping that, maybe things get a little bit worse in terms of the results, but maybe that affords Stoney the opportunity to make the sweeping changes. And I'm stressing that sweeping changes that are necessary to make this team better. From an attacking perspective, they've been dire for a long time since Sinclair, kind of fell out of her prime. So, look, sometimes you need to retool, and you do that through the struggles of the team in order to find a better way. And that's kind of the way that I'm looking at things right now. Where's the better way?
I don't know that replacement players who are an improvement are walking through the door. She has made some pretty big decisions. But I think we kind of already have. She has made some big decisions already. She clearly isn't happy with Ashley Lawrence right now. She took her off early in the US game, didn't start her against Switzerland. There are some major changes that have already been made. So there may be one or two players that you look at that played versus Switzerland and you think maybe they're there on kind of resume over the years and not current form or what they've done recently for Canada. I just don't know how much more of that change she can actually make, knowing that she's got players coming into the team who are going to be better or even maintain the level of players that people might be disappointed in right now. Right. She's in a tough spot.
Of course,
I don't know.
Of course, it's a tough spot. But what's the expectation right now? Is this team good enough to go out and regularly come away with results? Are they going down the right path in order to make them successful in 2027? That's what it's about right now. And I think you need to roll with young players, bring the new crop through. This is what happens with national teams, Aldi. You know this. Like sometimes you don't know what you have until it's out there right in front of you. And I think we know what players like Zadorsky and Carl and Sonis and Grosso and Prince and I've seen this cast. I know what they bring to the table. I know what they're good at, and I know where their weaknesses are as well. But if that's your core group going forward, and you look at other legitimate top 10 nations, they're nowhere near it. I'm sorry, they're just not.
No, I agree.
Let's see what the new crop can actually come in and do.
But you're talking about, I think, largely a big issue with this team is not the players who are around 30 now for me. It's the ones who are 25 who haven't really ever taken the next step when they've kind of they've kind of come through and been seen as the next generation. And so you can move on to the 20-year-olds if you like, but I don't know if you're going to get a different result. There still does need to be, I think, a certain amount of reliance on the older players who have played at a high level and have far more experience than anyone else in that squad. I don't think you can just discard those players.
It's a difficult team to come into. There's a power dynamic in that group where it's difficult. And I would like to see kind of the torch passed to a young group of players to see what they can do. That's what I'm suggesting. And look, those players and some of them that I mentioned, I've done an outstanding job, winning a gold medal, accomplishing some very special things. But again, this isn't club football. This is international football. The game moves quick. And players largely, like, it's crazy when you see Canadian women's player 150, 200 caps. It's like, what? Like, you just don't see that in international sports typically, right? So usually there's a new crop coming in, pushing that group out. And I think that this might be the appropriate time for that to happen. We'll see if there's response against Netherlands and some of these players start showing up and showing out and, create a different story, then yeah, that's different. But yeah, I think that all roads are leading to some sort of change.
All right, a full 45-minute pregame show tomorrow to get you set. It is a 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern time pregame show beginning. Kickoff 45 minutes later at 12:45 Mountain. 3 matches left in 2025 for the Canadian women's national team to try to avoid their worst year since 2019. And if they lose 2 more games, we'd have to go all the way back to 2016. A little put up or shut up time for Canada as they continue to build towards a World Cup.